You want to know why one of the main reasons guys are afraid to switch planters? It's because they're afraid of change. They don't want to change up something in the process when it's the most stressful time of year. But let me talk to you about the Fendt Momentum and why you'll be okay being a little stressed out ahead of time for the ROI gains you're going to have with this planter. And that's coming from someone, yes, I sell the equipment, but I also farm and I run a Fendt Momentum, and I've seen the ROI gains from these. I used to run John Deere, that's all I grew up on. That's all I knew. And we never really looked at anything else. And when you start looking at the ROI benefits of this planter, I think you'll second guess not at least looking and seeing what it can do for your operation. And I'm gonna get the naysayers out there saying, oh, my planter does the same thing. I have the exact same precision planting stuff on my planter. There's no gain for me to go to that. Yes, this has the same precision planting that some other planters have. So it's got the same seeding technology, you know, in my opinion, the best on the market. What this planter has is a smart frame technology with 0 pinch rows. That is why they market on the Fendt Momentum a 5 bushel gain. And they market that very conservatively because I've seen up to 15 depending on conditions. So I'm gonna go over why the Fendt Momentum is the best planter from an ROI perspective when you're upgrading planters. One of the big things on why you're gonna get the highest ROI with this planter is no pinch rows. I said that. They run an inline tandem tire setup. It's 2 separate frames. You have a main frame that's carrying all your weight, and then you have your row unit frame. They are controlled completely independently. But what that inline tire setup does, and only having 1 wing tire, and the wing tire being on the outside row, is I don't have pinch rows on the planter. And everybody always talks about pinch rows, but what pinch rows do is when you have a tire on each side of the row that's planting, you're compacting each side of the root base, stunting the growth of that plant and making it harder to have the potential that the rest of the rows have. So what this planter does is it's inline tandems in the center. I'm only affecting across this whole planter 6 rows, root base. That's it, 6. I have 4 tire tracks, 6 rows. And I'll show you that. And I look at the tires, okay, I got 1 main frame tire there. My other one, that would be my wing tire. It rides on the outside of the row. And why do you think they do that? You know, people say, oh, well, that's going to hit things when I'm going around the outside edge. Yeah, you have the potential of doing that, but it also gives you a buffer to stay away from things. The big agronomic side of having that tire on the outside row is the fact that my first pass across the field, I make 4 tracks. I got my centers and I got my wing. The nice thing is when I turn around and come back, this tire is running down the exact same tire track. So now, yeah, first pass I made 4 tire tracks, but now when I come back, I'm only adding 3. So I'm effectively affecting less rows every single time I'm going across the field. Like I said, 6 rows have a tire track next to them. So very minimal disturbance or compaction next to the row. That is one thing no other brand can do. And yeah, you could put tracks on the center of your, let's say, DB planter, but then you have added track wear. I don't have that. And I'm going to talk about another benefit of this inline tire and weight transfer system. Fendt calls smart spindles. So I essentially have a scale on each tire, wing tire, center, other center, and the other wing. But how do I know how to set my weight transfer cylinder to transfer weight over to the wing? I don't have to worry about it. I put it in automatic and it adjusts the scale weight depending on how heavy the center fill is, and it's adjusting the whole time. It's essentially a delta force system for your weight transfer, so it's always adapting. The other thing that it does is each one of these tires all the way across the planter has tire inflation on them. So it's looking at the scale to know how heavy each tire is, and it's going to adjust the PSI down to the lowest possible recommended PSI for that tire. And the position we're in right now would be the planting position. When I would go to fold up and go on the road, so in planting, the lowest it'll get down to is about 15 PSI. That would be if it's, I would say, closer to empty. When it's fully loaded, 26, 27 is probably about where it's going to be. Now, when I go to fold up and go to road mode, the planter smart frame knows I'm going to go on the road. It will then start inflating my center tires up to that 40 to 45 PSI. Like I said, that's all automatic. It's looking at that I'm folded. All right, time to fill up the tires on the transport tires up to 40 to 45 PSI. And why is tire inflation important, you say? Well, as I deflate that tire down, that footprint of that tire gets bigger. Our blast planter had tracks on the center. Maintenance was my biggest issue with it when roading. With this tire inflation, and the footprint on the ground when it's down at 15 PSI is almost identical to the track. So when I look at the actual compaction, yes, I had tracks, but I did not have weight transfer. Now I have tires that deflate, but I have weight transfer. So I essentially have less weight on the center with this planter the way it's set up. One of the nicest things, and this isn't so much ROI, but this is efficiency. I can order it with a 1,000-gallon liquid tank. My seed tanks are 65 bushel a side, and then I got saddle tanks of 250 gallons on each side. So I put 10 gallons of 2x0x2 on the back, and I do 4 gallons in furrow. So essentially I can do 100 acres without filling. This is factory offering, does not void the warranty. So I still have a 3-year full machine warranty on this, or they call it Gold Star customer care. And the last ROI side for me is the vertical contouring toolbar. Why is that important? Let's talk about it. Every other planter I've ever had, you'd set the frame down, the row units are in the ground. This is essentially your smart frame and your row unit frame. Why does that matter? Well, all my weight from the center fill and everything is transferred and carried by this beam. So when it's transferring weight out, that beam's carrying all that. This beam is strictly your row units for planting. So as I lower the planter down, it looks at this sensor and it stops once these parallel arms get level. There's 3 sensors on each section and it's finding a middle. So how is that going to benefit you? Well, if you've ever seen a DB planter in the field, it's very similar to this. It has the tires in front of the row units. Well, you get a teeter effect if you're going over hills. And what happens is if you have a big enough, steep enough transition, your row units lift out of the ground and you stop planting or you plant shallow. What do DB planter guys do? Raise the tongue of the drawbar up as they're going over the crest of that hill to keep the row units in the ground. What do I have to do? Nothing. I keep planting. Don't worry about it, because this beam is going to do all that work for me. As I go over that crest and that tractor starts going down and these row units are going over the crest of the hill, this beam is going to lower down to make sure I don't lose ground contact on any rows. That's a hard one to actually put a number to on ROI, but it effectively reduces my chances of ever planting shallow. And so when I'm strictly talking about a 5 bushel gain minimum with the Fendt Momentum, that is just the frame technology with no pinch rows, the automatic weight transfer, everything. I'm not even digging into the seed side yet. So, like I said, 5 bushels minimum. We've seen guys up to 15, 18 bushel gain if it's wetter, strictly for the fact that there's no pinch rows and there's a lot less root bases being affected. And I'll challenge you with one last thing. Go out to a field that a DB planter or a case planter has planted after it rains. Tell me if you see water down the tire tracks. Then find somebody who has a Momentum around. And if you don't know where one is, let me know, because I've got 7 of them around my area running currently. Go check out one of their fields. Tell me if you see water in their tracks. I guarantee you won't see any water sitting in the tire tracks from the Momentum. Why is that? Because there's no compaction compared to the other planters on the market. And that is why we're getting the yield gains out of this planter over everybody else. And there's 50 other benefits I can go through, but that's the main stuff and the main reasons why we switched to a Fendt Momentum. And I've got 3 years on this planter. There's not another planter I want to run. Not only just from the agronomic side, but the seeding side, the simplicity of it, the capacity, and really the last thing that I don't think gets talked about enough is the support you get from Fendt and how well they take care of a product. That's one thing that I think gets overlooked, but I have never had a product from another manufacturer that takes care of an issue better than Fendt does. They're retroactive on it. They go after and let you know. You're very informed on the problem and what they're doing to fix it or how to fix it. So props to Fendt. One thing I didn't mention was the ease of the fold sequence with this planter. So currently all I'm doing to fold this in is holding a toggle switch to the left. The wings will fold all the way in and the row units will fold vertical, and all I have to do is use a fingertip remote and raise the drawbar up. Same way to unfold, just reverse, lower the drawbar, push the toggle switch to the right, and the row units will fold down and the wings will fold out, and I'm back to plan mode. Last thing I forgot to mention, what I really like about this is the narrow transport. I farm up west of Minneapolis, narrow roads, so they don't give you any room. This way I can stay in my lane. I don't have to worry about anybody. But that's a huge thing for us, is the narrow transport. And just having the rows up out of the way, you can go down the road, 20 miles an hour, no problem. So yeah, I'm gonna wait for your response, because I know everybody's gonna have an opinion on why their planter's better. Well, I want you to tell me what has changed on your planter frame through the years, other than a weight transfer that's manual that doesn't do anything other than set a point that's right one time. Tell me why you think this planter agronomically is not the best on the market. I'd like to hear it.